Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you have been here before, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to help answer questions related to living an intentional life. And the central idea for this week's spread turned out to be home. Because having a sense of home is important when we want to live life intentionally. A feeling of displacement or of not having a home reduces our ability to access the full power of intention. Now, our feeling of discomfort or displacement is a resistant feeling, because we have the potential to feel at home anywhere in the world. So I have a question for you just right now. Do you feel at home? Now, what does home mean to you? Is it the place where you live, the building, the set of rooms? Is it the people that you interact with, your family, your group of friends? Is it your body? These are all some examples of locuses, places where we can have a sense of being at home. Yeah, being at home in our skin. Having a home, a space, whether it's a building, a set of rooms, or one room. Whether it's at home or at work. Or it could also be our communities. Do you have a sense of home? It is very important for living life intentionally. And this week's spread discusses that. And the new moon has come and gone, so the decks have been switched out. I have a whole new set of tarot and oracle decks. Well, the inquiry cards are the same as usual. So if you're curious about the decks and who the creators are, go to the end, watch to the end of the video, and there will be information about the names of the decks and who created them. And as usual, there will be links below that you can go to if you're interested in purchasing one or all of these decks. So, friends, the tarot spread has been laid. So let's take a look at it. I have to say it. I say it every week, but I have to say it. This is a gorgeous set of cards. They're beautiful. I think they interact with each other wonderfully in a very different way from the way the set that I used during the last lunar cycle interacted with each other. Now, in case you're curious, let me just give you the titles of the decks. The Oracle deck is a Compendium of Witches, which is a beautiful set of Oracle cards, and it's a very peculiar set, which I'll discuss in the next section. The inquiry cards are the same as always. The two tarot decks are a Green Witch Tarot and the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Lovely, lovely decks. And again, if you want to know who created them, there will be information at the end of this video. I think the end is that way. At the end of this video. And you can see that the 4 questions being answered by the 4 tarot cards are the same as every week. The central oracle section is different because the deck is different. So let's zoom into that central oracle message and talk about that. Again, this is the Compendium of Witches. And you see that instead of my usual layout of 3 cards, what I have is 4 cards. There is 1 central card and 3 cards which surround it. This is because this is a very particular deck. This deck is divided into 2 sections. One section of witches and one section that I personally can think of as their tools. So what I did was I chose one witch from the set of witches to be the main idea, the main answer to the question of how can we live life more intentionally in this week. And then I drew 3 tools around that witch. What can that witch use to manifest their particular qualities, their particular abilities when living life intentionally? And so what we see is the central card was a woman sitting in a very large, to my eye, comfortable looking rattan chair. And on her lap is a large, white, to my eye, very comfortable looking rabbit, a bunny. Perhaps you're familiar. And appropriately, the title of this card, the name of the witch, is the Comforter. This witch is the Comforter, the one who creates space for herself and for others, perhaps to do her workings, perhaps to heal, perhaps to comfort. Yeah, her work as the comforter, perhaps also a healer. So we have the Comforter as our main answer to the question of how can we live life more intentionally. So what does the Comforter do? The Comforter is the one who creates a safe and comfortable space as an act. It is the act of creating a comfortable space, of creating home. It is intentional. Creating home is an intentional act. And it is from that space that we have access to intention. And our access to intention is increased. Does that make sense to you? Can you see how having that sense of home, whatever that is, allows us to be open, allows us to be open again? Because when we do not feel at home, when we feel displaced, when we feel not situated in a safe place, what do? We put up walls, we protect ourselves, which is a form of resistance. And when we protect ourselves, when we build up walls, we close ourselves off from the powerful force of intention, which is still rushing by us and is still pushing us forward, but much more slowly. When we are open, it's then that we have full access to the power of intention. And to be fully open, we need to have that sense of home, wherever that is. Again, do you feel at home in your skin? I would say that would be the first place. Feeling at home in our skin, in our bodies, is the first place, that root chakra place of being here, present, open, safe in this physical form. And then the extension of that safety, that extension of that feeling at home in our physical space. Where is your physical space? Is it the place that you call home? Is it somewhere else? Is it out in nature? Is it at work? For me personally, I would say I have never is a too large and probably an inaccurate word. I haven't often felt at home in my full living space as I have lived my life. I've always had part of that space that I've felt at home in, but I've never felt that the entire space, for example, the entire house or the entire apartment, was my home. But that's okay, because I've always had my space within that structure, which I have felt at home in. I feel at home in my office, to be frank. Now, I also feel very much at home in my office. So, where do you feel at home? Now, what about your communities? Do you have a community that you would consider home? If you do, you are truly blessed. If you do not, that's okay. That can come. We can always find our tribe. But having that sense of home is very important. Because it's in that home space that we are, again, open and have access to intention, full access to intention. So, we want to embody the comforter. Now, are we creating space for others? Certainly. We are certainly creating a comfortable space for others. That is the highest goal. But first, we need to create that space for ourselves. So, what tools do we have? What are the 3 tools that surround the witch called the comforter? The first one you saw was a braided lock of hair, which has been cut. And doing a little bit of research, I saw that in some societies, there was a tradition of cutting off a lock of hair as an oath. Now, a lock of hair as an oath, especially for a love promise or for devotion. Now, a lock of hair could be given to a suitor or an intended. So what does that mean in regards to the comforter? Who are we making this promise to? I believe the promise that we are making is to ourselves. Because again, creating that sense of home, creating that safe space is not a haphazard act. It's not something that happens by chance. There could be some synchronicity involved, certainly, but it's not something that happens by chance. It is intentional. And so, for it to be intentional, we need to make a promise to ourselves that we will create our home space. We will create our sense of home in our bodies. We will create our living space, whatever size we can manage, wherever that may be that at home, be it at work, be it out in a park or somewhere else in nature, be it at a beach. We will find our home space and we will intentionally create that home space. Are you able to make that promise to yourself? If you already have a home, you may be thinking, well, I already have a home. This doesn't mean anything to me. I beg to differ. That intention, that promise of creating the home is not a one and done deal. Creating your home space must be maintained. We want to maintain it. We don't move into our dream house and then stop giving attention to it. Or if we do stop giving attention to it, it starts to fall down and crumble. Now, that promise of creating and maintaining a home space, first in our bodies and then in physical space and then in our interactions, must be continued. It must be a continued oath to ourselves. The next card is pruning. Pruning. What do you think when you think of pruning? In this card, we see shears cutting leaves of a plant, or not branches, but stems of a plant. And if you've ever done any gardening, you know that pruning is important for the health of a plant. Many plants, especially ones that are raised by humans and are not subjected to the full force of nature, where naturally they become pruned by storms and lightning and floods, etc., etc. Many plants require, in our perhaps unnaturally protected spaces, require pruning. There aren't as many animals to come by and eat parts of them. They require pruning. And often when we think of pruning as humans, what do we think of? We think of looking at a plant and thinking, oh, is it healthy? It looks strong. Or, oh, look at that leaf. That leaf or that stem seems to be turning brown and wilting. I think I'll prune it off. That is certainly one aspect of pruning. Now, pruning away the things that are no longer of service, the things that are beginning to wilt and die. Pruning away the things that are no longer vibrant in our lives. Of course, if the whole plant starts to droop over, we don't want to cut the whole thing down. We'd want to treat it. But in a growing plant, there are always parts that will probably need to be trimmed, pruned. However, it's not just the dying parts. It's not just the wilting parts that need pruning or that want pruning. Have you ever seen somebody doing bonsai, for example? A Japanese art of miniature gardening, where you take a plant and you keep it very, very small for extended periods of time. Not a year, not 2 years, but 20 years, 30 years. Yeah? You take a tree and keep it about that big. It's a tree that would naturally grow to a huge thing, but you keep it small. And the way to do that is by pruning. And you don't just prune the things that are about to fall off anyways. You prune healthy bits. Why would you do that? Well, if you're interested in bonsai, that's one reason. But why would we do it even if we're not interested in bonsai? Even if we're not interested in forcing a plant to maintain a miniature stature? Why would we do that? We might do that to shape the plant, to redirect the plant. And some of that has been criticized by people, especially when taken to the extreme of an English or French garden from the 18th century or the 19th century, yeah? Controlling nature, forcing it to model itself on human structures. Certainly there can be criticism on that. However, that's not the only kind of pruning where you would want to trim away some healthy bits. There might be healthy bits that are leading the plant in a direction that will eventually cause it to become unhealthy. And it's in those cases, when cutting off bits that look healthy, but you know that in the long run will lead to it going in a direction that will perhaps be unhealthy, that you are helping the plant by cutting things that look healthy, that look vibrant. So, when we are what does that mean to our home? When creating our homes, we need to do pruning. We need to do a lot of constant, continuous pruning. We need to cull our homes. And when we cull our homes, for the most easiest thing to do is to get rid of the things we don't use anymore, the things that are just causing clutter. That's the easiest kind of pruning. Can you do that? If you can do that easily, you are much better than me. You are a much better home creator than I am. I'm a little bit of a hoarder. I've got the hoarder gene, and I feel uncomfortable throwing things away. It's come through my grandmother and my mother, and it reached me in a weaker state, but it's still there. I've got a little bit of the hoarder gene. So I don't throw things away very easily. I have to be very conscious. I have to look at things and say, when was the last time I used this? And really, is there really another time that this really, really could come in handy? And how many of this do I need? For example, rubber bands. Yeah, I collect rubber bands, not like a collection, but I don't want to throw them away because I know there are times when I can use them. But when I get up to a collection that looks like a bundle of stuff stuck into a drawer, I realize that I got to get rid of most of these rubber bands. Leave myself with a reasonable amount, maybe of 5, yeah, and throw the rest away. Look at the ones that still look like they've got good elastic. Get rid of the ones that have been around too long and have started to melt or something. And maybe even get rid of some of the rubber bands that are still very, very usable, but I don't need that many. The same thing with those little twist ties. If you're in the West, in, for example, the United States, and perhaps I think other English-speaking countries, perhaps other non-English-speaking Western countries, things like bread, maybe even pastries, when they're wrapped in a plastic, often are tied off with a little metal twist. And I save those. I save those because I know that I can not only reuse the bags, but I can reuse those twists. But when I've got a drawer with like 20 or 30 of those, I realize that, I've probably gone overboard and I need to get rid of some of these. Even though they are usable, I don't need that many. So we need to be able to call our homes things that certainly are no longer usable. Clothes that you know you will never get into again. But also some things that you possibly could wear again, but don't. You've lost interest in them. Or you've got one or two that are already very much like it. Or even though it's your favorite shirt, there's a stain on it somewhere that maybe not everybody notices, but you notice. And so you're embarrassed about wearing it, but you love the shirt anyway, so you don't want to throw it out. And see, that's me. I have a hard time throwing things away. But we need to, as we keep our oath to ourselves, be able to prune our spaces. Why? Well, for one thing, probably you can see immediately that clutter is just clutter. Yeah, clutter collects dust. It's actually unhealthy. And clutter, the more things that we are carrying through our life in our spaces, the more weighed down we are. Not only when we have to move, but it reduces the actual space in our houses. And if you've ever actually gotten rid of a lot of that stuff, you notice how much freer you feel in your space, how much more open the space feels. And it's that freedom and openness which really makes us feel that sense of being, at home. I can do anything I want here. I can be anyone I want to be here. I can dance if I want to. I can do what I want to. I can need less time to clean. Yeah? The more stuff we have, the more time it takes to clean it. So we even have more time to create if our spaces are more open, less cluttered, and we have fewer things. And the third card, what is that? It's Temperance. Temperance. Now this is interesting. It's a chalice with a snake wrapped around it. And the book said poison, balancing poison and medicine, I think. And I think that's a little bit too far for me. However, temperance is perfect. And I get the idea. I wouldn't go for poison snake as being the unnecessary extreme. However, I get the idea of temperance, balance, harmony, all of those things. We want to create all of those things within our space. Because too much of anything is too much. Too much of any one thing, no matter how much we love it, is too much. It weighs us down. Yeah? Too much sweet is cloying. Too much bitter is inedible. That spot in the middle is what we want to find. Whatever that means for you. For me, for example, I like bitter. I don't like too sweet. So my sweet spot, my center point, my point of temperance would probably be on the bitter side of the spectrum. You might be different. You might be more tolerant of sweet than I am, and less tolerant of bitter. So your point of temperance might be closer to the sweet area. We each have our own point of temperance, of center, of balance. And it's that center, that balance that we want in our homes. Too much comforter will weigh us down. Not enough comforter will make us cold in the winter. We want that sweet spot. We want to match our sweet spot and remember that each one of ours is different from the others. So if we're living with others, we need to be able to be a little bit flexible. Yeah? My partner's sweet spot will be different than mine. Your parents' sweet spot will be different from yours. If you're staying with your parents, you might have to adjust. If they're staying with you, they might have to adjust. Not completely to where you are. Compromise. That's part of temperance. Compromise. mixing the extremes and coming up with the new, beautiful gold in the center. Mixing the fire and the water and coming up with beautiful steam. So, the central message of this card is to find and create home. We want to make a promise ourselves to make that home and maintain that home. And part of maintaining that home is doing some pruning. And also keeping a beautiful balance, a temperate balance. And it's with that that we are comfortable and we are open and have full access to the powerful force of intention. Now, friends, we have 4 questions to ask of our homes. So let's look at that first question. The first question is, where can I be more open? An interesting question for this spread. Because I believe a real home is an open home. A home that we feel comfortable in and safe in is one with an open door, where we will allow people and things to enter. Knowing that when we are in alignment with ourselves and we are flowing with our intention, we are safe. And our homes are safe. And we don't have to protect them so hard, because the more we are protecting, the more we are giving attention to something like fear, something like hate, something like perceived evil. Not imagined, but perceived evil. Evil in my understanding is not an objective fact, but a perception, an evaluation. And that's an entirely different subject. But an open home is one that is able to support our ability to interact with and move with intention. And so the answer to this question, where can I be more open, is very interesting. One is the Witch of Earth. The other is the Three of Wands. Now, the Witch of Earth is from the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, which is a very restructured tarot. Yeah, for one thing, the major arcana has been flipped. So instead of starting with the Fool or the Magician and ending with the World, it begins with the World and moves the other direction. And as it moves in the other direction, I've noticed that the minor arcana is also reworked in many different ways. Now, certainly you can read it in a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith way, but looking at the images of these cards, I decided to go with the format, the structure that the creator intended. And so the Witch of Earth is our first answer. And what we have here is a witch, perhaps a woman, but not necessarily, with a bear's skin over her head, starting with the head of the bear, holding a wand. Interesting, considering this is an earth sign, not a wand sign, a fire sign, standing between 2 pillars, seeming to block entrance, looking a little bit protective in some ways. Now, the Witch of Earth in this deck would be, I believe, related to the Knight of Pentacles, which is the slow-moving, doing the daily tasks, working routines, getting stuff done, member of the court of the tarot. However, this Witch of Earth is a little bit different. Well, very different in my book. She is the card of service, especially service to Mother Earth. She is called to serve. She is engaged in earth healing, healing the earth. She's engaged in embodying divine earth power, the power of the earth. Like the Knight. The Knight is often considered a very powerful card, the writing out and doing of things. A powerful card. So the Witch is a card of power as well. And she is the power of earth. The physical power, the power of space, the power of material, the power of Gaia. which is perfect for this question of home, because in the greatest sense, what is our home? Well, first, it's this physical universe. But closer, it's this earth is our home. And so this is one area we can be more open in. Yeah? Embodying the power of our home, which is this earth, and also following the call to serve this earth, serve our homes. Just as we were called to call and temper our homes in the Oracle deck, we're called to serve our home, this earth. And that's in an area in which we can be more open. We can open our sense of home to the entire planet. And imagine how open we would be if we embodied that. Imagine, as open as that would be, how much power of intention we would have available to us. How quickly we would move with the power of intention, embodying that, embodying the the server of our home, this planet. Now remember, the server of the planet is not the one who is fighting. It's the one who is guardianing. And yes, she looks like she is protective. However, she is also welcoming. I believe she is also welcoming. She is ready to welcome anyone who is ready to enter into the sacred space of earth power and take stewardship of this planet Earth. And the best stewardship is not the one who goes and tries to destroy the destroyers. It's the one who goes out to foster life, foster care, foster love for our home planet. And imagine how powerful you would be if you were to do that. That is an area we can be more open. The next answer is the Three of Wands. Now, the Green Witch Tarot is a much more standard. There are some variations, but it's a much more standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so the Three of Wands, the adventurous course, progress. So we can be more open in taking an adventurous course with our sense of home, with our stewardship. We can take action from our intention, that intention that we are following as we have created a home space. It's the card of expansion. Yeah, we also want to expand our homes beyond our single rooms or our apartments or our houses. We want to expand to include the entirety of this planet, if not the universe. If you felt fully at home in this universe, again, how powerful would you be? So, the Three of Wands, we embody the Witch of Earth, and we move forward with the Three of Wands, expansion, following our intention. That's where we can be more open. What is that second question? Let's take a look. All of the questions around the central spread seem very home-like. The first one, where can I be more open? The second one, where can I be more kind? And isn't that what home speaks to? Being kind, kindness. A true home is a place of love, of kindness, and of openness. So where can I be more kind? The two answers to that question are the Four of Fire, which is the Four of Wands in a standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Now, a Four of Wands in a RWS deck is generally 4 wands, 4 poles with bunting around them, perhaps some fruits and vegetables, and people in the distance looking like they're coming to where the wands are standing in celebration of something. It's sometimes thought of as a wedding card, but at least it's a celebration of a milestone of some sort. It's not a complete victory. I mean, it's not the Six of Wands yet, but it is a Four of Wands, a milestone, a celebration of milestones. That's one of the meanings for the Four of Wands. Here we have something different. The Four of Wands in the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, the keywords are home. What could be a better answer than that? Where can I be more kind? Home. It's welcome, comfort, and safety. Again, what could be a more perfect answer to this question? Where can I be more kind? I can be more kind at home. Now, in all aspects of home, I can be more kind to myself in my physical body. I can be more kind to myself in my perhaps limited personal space within my home structure. I can be more kind to the people who are in my larger home structure, wherever that is. And then if we can achieve that idea of being stewards of the planet, extending our home to this entire earth, we can be more kind in all of that area, in the whole earth. Now, it's quite a stretch, and we can't expect ourselves to attain that tomorrow. But I think that is the direction we want to be heading in. Coming home to self first, and then welcoming others to our hearths. That is what this card is. Welcoming, first coming home to ourselves, being kind to ourselves, and then welcoming others to our hearths. That's where we can be more kind. And it's in that welcoming that our kindness is expressed. It's also in our stewardship that kindness is expressed. The other answer, the second part of this answer, is the Ten of Chalices. The Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups. Sorry, the Ten of Cups. Which means what? Well, it can mean many things. It can mean divine love. Sure, okay. That's not something that we can do, perhaps. It's something we can realize. We can be the channel for divine love. And as we are the channel for divine love, we are naturally kinder. We can be kinder. It's a card of blissful relationships, often seen as a family, a mother unit, a father unit, and child units. But you can see in this card, there are two people with 10 cups. They seem to be in a loving relationship. Our families don't have to be our biological families. They can be intentional families. And that's, I believe, where we can be more kind. We can show more kindness to our extended intentional family. Friends, co-workers, the guy who delivers your Amazon packages, or the woman who delivers your Amazon packages, or the non-binary person who delivers your Amazon packages. And maybe in the future, even the droid who delivers your Amazon packages. Who knows? But we can be more kind. Extend our kindness to all of our relationships. Harmony. It's the card of harmony. It's the card of happiness and joy and alignment. Because it's in our alignment that we are able to truly show kindness. Not manipulative kindness, not being nice to get something out of somebody else, but true kindness. So that's where we can be more kind as we create our homes. Let's look at the third question. The third question is, what inspires me? So as we have our homes, as we have cared for our homes, as we become more open from that base of home, as we become more kind from that space of home, then we can achieve or realize more inspiration. And what inspires us? The first card, I love this card. I love this card in this deck, and I generally love this card. This is the Witch of Water. And in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, this would be the Knight of Cups. And I love the Knight of Cups. I have that kind of romantic heart. And in the Witch's Wisdom, the Witch of Water, which would be similar to a Knight of Cups, Knight of Water, it's a little bit different. Yeah, you can see, she is rising up in her beauty from the ocean. She is a sea witch. Yeah, you can see her tail, a fish's tail. And she's rising up wearing only a pearl necklace and holding her chalice, her hair beautifully arranged with a star in her hair. Gorgeous. She is a card of sensuality and pleasure. And our sensuality, our appreciation of our sensual experience in this physical universe inspires us. And our sensual pleasure of things like the things we taste, the things we eat, the things we drink, the fresh air that we breathe, the roses, the flowers that we smell, the things that we see, the spaces that we create, the spaces that we experience in nature, the touch of a loved one, the touch of beautiful fabrics, the sound of music, or your lover's voice, or your child's voice, or your parent's voice, or the voice of your animal companion. All of those things inspire us. Those sensual feelings inspire us. She's also the card of depth of and presence to her own feelings. Now, she's not only sensing those things around her, she's also sensing from within. Now, this is where intuition comes out. Our intuition inspires us, but also being present to her own emotions. We want to be present to our emotions, to know how we are feeling, wherever we are on the spectrum of emotion. And it's easier to feel present to our emotions when we are happy or feeling loving or hopeful. And it's more challenging to be present to our emotions when we are feeling angry or worthless or even bored. We try to distract ourselves so much from that sense of boredom. Because we think, no, boredom is bad, boredom is bad. We want to be present to our boredom instead of distracting ourselves from it by picking up our device of some kind and playing with a game or checking social media or watching a YouTube video. Instead of that, we want to sit with our boredom and understand why we are bored. Because boredom is a form of resistance. We are resisting the here and now. And to be able to understand where that resistance is coming from, we want to be able to be present to our emotions. And it's being present to our own emotions that helps us to realize where things are going off kilter, and be able to bring ourselves more into alignment with our eternal, non-dying, spiritual selves, our eternal beings, because it's in that alignment, it's in that sense of hope or love or joy that we have access again to the powerful force of intention. And it's when we're feeling boredom or anger or worthlessness that we have cut ourselves off from the powerful force of intention. So being present to our emotions is part of that journey, part of living an intentional life. And that is what inspires us. It inspires us to either make the changes, do the course correction that will bring us back into alignment, or to revel in our alignment, and move more fully with intention, with our sense of home. And the second part of the answer to this question is the tower. Was that surprising to you? It was certainly surprising to me. The tower, or in this deck, the Wild Hunt. Now, the Wild Hunt, I don't know if you know this, the Wild Hunt is a Celtic or Germanic conception and has different descriptions, different forms throughout history. Some people even, the image on this card is a frightening image. It's a wild ride of spirits that could drag you off into death or into the abyss. But there are some indications that this wild ride may actually have been Odin riding and bringing gifts, and may have actually been an ancient predecessor to our modern day Santa Claus. There is that possible thread. So the Wild Hunt or the Tower in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. How can that inspire us? There are some aspects to the Tower which are positive. Each card in the Major Arcana has both positive and negative meanings. And there is positive to cards like Death. There's positive to cards like the Tower, or here the Wild Hunt. It's a card of sudden change. So think of this. What do we see here? We see a tower looking like it's exploding. But it looks like it's exploding with light, doesn't it? There's a light shining from within, and that could be a destructive light, but it could be the light of the pure being from within. It could be either one. So if we take it the more positive, if we take it as the light of pure being shining through from this tower that is going to crumble, that is starting to break apart, it could be that sudden change of revelation coming out of a prison cell. It could be upheaval and chaos. Now we think chaos and upheaval is horrible. We want stability. We want steady. But if that stability, if that steady is becoming stagnant, then we want upheaval. Sometimes chaos is very creative. And it's the creative chaos that I think this card is talking to us about. It's the card of revelation. And in this card, you see that light, the revelation appearing. Not a call from above, but a revelation from within. Now, the call from above is more the judgment card. This is a revelation from within. It's an awakening. An awakening from within. From within the crusted accretion of stuff that we've collected around ourselves. And so you could think of the tower as being that pruning, a very dramatic form of pruning the stuff from around us, from crumbling the ego around us and revealing the spirit of love and the spirit of God and the spirit of spirit within ourselves. So we enjoy the sensual things around us. We are present with our emotions and we allow the inner light to be revealed. That is what inspires us. We break through the accretions that have built up around us. We break through, and that inspires us. Now, in the best case scenario, that accretion will be a very thin layer and you break through and it's not a big deal. But if there have been years of buildup, that breakthrough is going to feel much more dramatic. But it may be necessary. And if we do it intentionally, it doesn't have to be all in one moment. We can break down that wall brick by brick. We can do that. It's possible. We don't have to wait for it to be broken for us. We can do the tower for ourselves and manage the speed for ourselves. Often. Perhaps not always, but often we can manage it. We can do the work that will break the walls down, creating a much more open, home space for us, with the light shining. Let's take a look at that fourth question. The fourth question is, what moves me? So we've come from establishing a home. How can we be more open? How can we be more kind? What inspires us? And then now, what moves us? Because we don't want to stay in one place. Living an intentional life is a life of movement. So what moves us? And on the one side, we have the Two of Water. The other side, we have the Ace of Chalices, another Cups card. And you notice that in this spread, we've got a lot of water going on. We've got a lot of water. Now we have two Wands cards. We've got a little bit of fire balance, which is important. It shows that this reading has some balance. However, we've got a lot of water. We've got the Knight of Cups, the Witch of Water. We've got the Ten of Chalices, the Ten of Cups. We've got now the Two of Water, the Two of Cups, and the Ace of Cups. And these are things that move us. The Two of Water, the Two of Cups, is generally the love card in a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And here what do we have? We have two otters, one on land, one in the water, meeting, sniffing each other out, interacting. A friendly interaction. Perhaps the beginning of a love interaction. So we can still get that love feeling. But looking at the book of the Witch's Wisdom, what do we see? We see playful pleasure. Because that's what otters are. Otters, when they interact with each other, are very playful. They enjoy playfully interacting with each other. It's the card of expressing joy. And expressing joy moves us. Feeling joy can move us, certainly. But feeling joy is a very in-place kind of action. Expressing joy out into the world is the beginning of movement. Being open to learning. Being open to learning how to play. And how to live as we play. Let me say that again, because I believe this is an interesting idea from this particular card in this particular deck. Being open to learning how to play as we live and how to live as we play. Learning how to play as we live. Being able to play in everyday life. That is the most open way of living. That is the most home-like way of living. And also being able to live as we play. When we go and do our playful acts, like going to a movie or having a meal with a loved one or a friend, or doing any of that, playing with our phones. Any of those acts of play, if we use them as distractions, we're not doing it right, I don't think. If we bring our life into our play, then we are moving with intention again. We're not trying to take a step out of our lives to do the playtime and then get back into it. Yeah? We want to play as we live and live as we play. And that will move us. That will help us to express our joy. Like otters, as they take the plunge into the water together and playfully swim around each other. Playfully swim and explore together. And then the next one, the Ace of Chalices, the Ace of Cups. And in this one did you see a salmon leaping, which is a little bit odd to me at first, because when I think salmon's going upstream, my first thought is they're going to go die. Which is not exactly what I want from an Ace of Cups card. I don't want that thought of, okay, I'm about to give up the ghost. I'm ready to give up this life and go into another body. I think of the aces as beginnings. And certainly, This salmon is fulfilling their love path of swimming upstream and beginning the next generation. Certainly, there is that. But let's focus on the chalice here. The chalice. Love. The Ace of Cups is love. New love especially. The seed of love. The beginning of love. It's a card of new relationships. New relationships move us. Yeah, that honeymoon phase. That phase where we don't feel it if we get sick, where everything feels bright and shiny, that moves us. The card of compassion. Yeah, that emotional connection with the other. The card of creativity and abundance. All in the beginning stages. Yeah, this is the ace, this is the one, this is the seed. But it's that seed that moves us to start nurturing it and helping it grow. So what moves me? What moves me is my relationships, my interactions, my learning to play as I live and live as I play, and seeing those seeds of love, creativity, compassion, and abundance, and doing the work of the comforter that will help nurture that seed and help it grow within a home space. That is where we are. That is where we are able to move. And the space from which we are able to move with love. Because it's love that moves us, I believe. Joy gives us the energy. Love is the creation, the act of creation. And that act of creation is a movement. It doesn't happen out of space and time. It is a movement. And so, what moves me? Love moves me. Love in all of its forms and shapes. So friends, does this ring true for you? Have you discovered anything? Have you remembered anything? Have you gained more appreciation for your home and the importance of having home, both in body and in space and among people? I'd love to hear from you. Hit the like button if you feel called to, if you've gotten something out of this. Share it with somebody. Share this video with somebody who you feel might appreciate it or might get comforted from it. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the alarm bell so you get notification of when I upload videos. And leave comments below. What does home mean for you? Where do you find your home? What is it like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? Where is it? Who is it? I'd love to hear from you. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.